So what's your biggest labour related cost? Now, if you're like everyone, you're going to say wages. But if you're operating in an industry that utilises skilled labour, chances are that's not the case. Now, you're probably operating within a skill shortage, so you can't get as many people as you need to do the work that you have. And if that is the case, then your biggest cost is not actually the wage bill, it's the lost production. So this is the work that never gets done. It's the contracts you lose because you don't have the people to satisfy them. It's the jobs you never get to because your lead time is too long. Now, this is not to say wages are irrelevant. They certainly are on your profit and loss when you're going through that with your accountant. You scroll through all the costs. Your biggest one on there is going to be the wages. But the productivity doesn't show up. It's sort of hidden. It's kind of hypothetical, like what we could do if we weren't constrained by an inadequate supply of labour. Now, because this wage bill is often such a big number, it's very tempting to fall into the trap of putting all your focus on it. Like, you can't help but think, oh, what if I could just reduce that a little bit and then I'd have a whole lot of extra money. And then I wouldn't have to worry about finding more work or anything because I'd just do the work that I'm doing. It would be very efficient. It would just be like increasing efficiency because we're reducing our costs. And this might not just be wages. You focus on all kinds of costs. We're screwing them down and making the business more efficient. In a way, this is a good strategy. Like if you literally have no work, that might be the only lever you have. But for growth, it's a terrible strategy. And for labour optimization, it's also a bad move. So let me explain. So I'll give you a real simple example here that kind of proves my point. So say you got a crew of three. Let's say they're a crew of three arborists. We all know I love arboriculture. These arborists can go out, they take their truck, and they can turn over $3,000 a day. So they bring in $3,000 revenue. Let's say, for keeping it simple, half of that is the wage bill, so $1,500. Now, if we're focused on the wages here, what sort of actions could we take? Well, you can either increase them or decrease them, sort of, couldn't you? Now, I know we don't really like decrease wages, but maybe we do other things like reduce hours and that kind of thing. Or try and get people to do more work within less hours. That's kind of the same thing. So there's not many options to do with the wages. Let's say we did do something drastic. Let's say we cut them. Well, we cut them completely. From $1,500 down to zero. Now, we've saved $1,500, haven't we? Great, so we can put that in our pocket. Of course, we've also lost $3,000 of production. So that $1,500 we just put in our pocket, we'll have to put that towards that loss, won't we? And then we'll have to find another $1,500 from somewhere else. So you don't need to be a mathematician to see that this doesn't really work. And now, of course, that's an extreme example, but even just whittling away at it, you're going to get a similar effect. It's not going to be as pronounced, but it's going to send you backwards. So because of this, when we are working with workforce strategy, trying to optimize the use of labour, we don't really look at the wages. We take it into consideration, but it's 4 or 5 down the list. what we're aiming for is production. So how can we get more production? How can we utilize the scarce resources that the firms have? Which the most scarce of all, or the most important of all, is the skilled labor. So how can we ensure that it is not being constrained in any way, not being wasted? So maybe you don't have a expensive climbing arborist going off and dumping the truck, or maybe you have a sort of low-cost guy assisting so that the climber can get twice as much done. Things like that. That's the sort of productivity we're going for. Now, notice none of those are cost-cutting. None of them are even looking at costs. So you start looking at costs, you get actions like, oh, why don't we keep this machine going? Oh, it's starting to break down and give us trouble, but replacing it's a big cost. We'll just leave it there and hope that it's going to be okay. You can already see this probably isn't going to be a good idea long term. Like a new, better machine, okay, it's expensive, but it allows greater production, less interruptions from breakdowns, that kind of thing. And the same is true for the labor. If we focus on production and enabling the labor to be deployed more effectively, that tends to have a much more beneficial result. So this leads me to my final point on this, which is, if you have a focus on production, apart from that sort of making everything better, you'll have a lot more support from your workforce. So production enablers tend to be looked upon quite fondly, unlike kind of cost mitigation strategies. The most obvious of which, okay, we're going to reduce wages across the board because the business isn't making enough money. You just imagine the staff rallying behind an initiative like that. Whereas if you're like, look, we've got you a brand new chipper, it's going to make your job 10 times easier and you're going to be able to get more done. You can see that people are going to be a lot more enthusiastic about that. So there's not going to be this conflict between management and the field staff. Everyone's going to be on the same page, going towards the same goal of kind of maximizing productivity, growing the productive capacity of the business so we can do more, better work, more effectively. Often with less people, which at the end of the day results in, might even result in a lower wage bill if it's being used more effectively. But that can't be the focus. So you cannot focus on costs. What you focus on is what you're going to get more of. So if you're focused on productivity, and this is going to be my concluding line, I think, if you focus on productivity, you will get more of it. You focus on cost, you're just going to find more of that. See you next time.